Well, thank you for joining us for this pre-concert talk about Bach B minor Mass, one of the great masterpieces of all time. And boy, has it been a piece we've been waiting to do for a while now. Originally planned for the 1920 season. We postponed it twice. The buildup has been intense, and finally we get to do it. But I just have to say, I don't know about you, Welz, but I'm coming off a high with our last concert program.
Absolutely.
With the Vivaldi and the Rundstedt. I mean, the Vivaldi was so gratifying in that, we had our three wonderful soloists come from with the orchestra and just play with incredible heart and passion on music that we all love.
Virtuosity.
Oh, I know. And it was fun because it was like every night out was different and had more and different kinds of passion.
Completely different. And they already were different in amongst themselves. They didn't try to become uniform as if you were hearing one soloist.
Right.
They had their own personalities, but you're absolutely right. Each time there was a performance. And then, I think we can't not say that the vocalists of True Concord had asked you whether they could see the Ukrainian national anthem before the Saturday and Sunday performances, and that added a whole other layer of importance. I don't know what the word is, certainly of reverence and spirituality, and it informed the Vivaldi and Jake's piece.
Oh, I think there's no doubt about it for audience and performers alike.
Absolutely.
It was one of those moments, and to me, this is really the essence of True Concord. It's when our hearts and our minds are in the same place at a particular moment in time, and we could just feel that as we played and sang the Ukrainian national anthem before those Saturday night and Sunday afternoon performances, and then the spirit of that most definitely carried into the concert.
Absolutely.
And then Jake's piece, I when I got the score, and I'm working through it, preparing it, I thought, okay, this is really well crafted. This is a good piece. And then you get to actually then hear it, because there really wasn't a reference recording. You can't go online and
we're going to make that reference.
Well, that's true. Yes. We will be doing that. So it's a different kind of learning process without that reference, but those first sounds just blew me away. And there again, just the energy and the reaction was palpable from both performers and audience, but you were in the hall.
No question about it. And you're right, the national anthem of Ukraine set the stage for a different kind of feeling about things, but also, in the classical music world, in the performing arts world, we love to talk about community engagement. Yeah. This was classic community engagement in the moment, in the heat of the moment, at a time in history that is tragic and horrific. And Jake and Todd have put together a piece that is about something tragic and horrific in a different way. Yeah. But it was also, we're talking about today the Bach B minor Mass. It's kind of classic juxtaposition of what you've done over these almost 20 years now of programming True Concord, where there's a masterpiece, an acknowledged masterpiece of centuries, the Bach, and then a brand new piece. And then that brand new piece was juxtaposed with a 300-year-old piece that had an environmental fun, but also real sensibility about it, with the Vivaldi being written for the seasons, but also you plucked those soloists from the body of the orchestra that you use all the time, that we get to hear all the time with True Concord, which is exactly what you're going to be doing with the Bach as well.
That's right, and I like to say it's kind of an embarrassment of riches. Yeah. That we've got all these wonderful musicians, both in the orchestra and in the choir, and with the Bach, we're going to have 12 different soloists featured on this work, which just again shows the incredible depth of the talents that I am so fortunate to work with.
Yeah, definitely. So let me ask you a question. This is a masterpiece. There's no question about that. We all know that. The world acknowledges that. It's been called the greatest musical work of all times and all people.
Well,
So, my friend, do you feel any pressure? Just asking.
yeah, right.
I mean, this is something that didn't even get done, I don't think, in the United States until 1900 or something like that.
Yeah.
So there were questions about why is that? What took so long? Why, when we all think today of not just Bach being one of the three Bs, but being the big B amongst Beethoven and Brahms and Bruckner and others, but, you know, the one that is universally acknowledged, even if people don't know all the output, why this piece? Where does it fall with St. Matthew Passion, St. John Passion, the motets? But really, I mean, as you are preparing it again, and you've done it with True Concord before, what does that feel like? Does it feel brand new every time you crack open the store? Robert Shaw would say that. You know, Bernstein would say that. It's if he was doing Tristan and Isolde or Symphonie Fantastique or Bach, Lenny would say, you know, well, it's new every time.
Yeah, that's certainly true.
Page one.
Yeah, you know, it is good that we have done it before, so it's not as scary. But yeah, this is a piece, you know, that is something you esteem and you revere, and it's daunting, it's wonderful, it's awesome, it's scary, all of the above. Having gone through it once before takes a little of the fear out as I'm going through and preparing. But you're absolutely right. I mean, whether it's this piece or it's Mozart Requiem or you name it, there is always something new to be found in these works. You can't fully grasp all of it in one or two or three or four performances. I mean, and that's the beauty of music, right? It's something we're always learning from and experiencing anew.
And it's live.
And it's live. And Friday will be different from Saturday. And
Absolutely
Saturday night will be different from Sunday afternoon. You know, you mentioned the St. Matthew Passion and the St. John Passion. I've had the great fortune of conducting those pieces as well with True Concord. And those are the big three of Bach. You know, we started with the Bach B minor, and then later we did the St. John Passion, and then the Matthew Passion, and these are life-changing pieces
For performer and audience alike.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if I just may interject, for every performance of a piece like this, or Beethoven 9, or Mozart Requiem, or Verdi Requiem, or whatever, I think it's always important for students, administrators like myself, to remember that not only is it tackling a monumental piece for conductor and artists alike, there's always somebody who's never heard it before in the audience. And probably with, though not a lot of interchangeability with the artists who comprise True Concord, but there's probably someone who's singing it for the first time too, who are getting this communal kind of feel about how it's done from you and their colleagues, whether they're in the vocal ensemble or in the orchestra. There's also something very exposed about Bach, like there is about Mozart. You can fudge a little bit with the romantics, Everybody loves to play Chopin because you can get away with something at the piano. You can't get away with anything in Mozart. You goof, people know. Yeah. And they remark on it.
Yeah.
But again, no pressure.
No big deal. Pressure, it's more...
Maybe it's more responsibility.
Responsibility, it's an honor, it's a privilege, it's something you don't take lightly. And you're absolutely right. There are people for whom this will be their first time. But even for those who have performed it multiple times, there's still a first-time kind of experience around it. Because, again, you discover something within it that you hadn't previously, and it blows your mind. Yeah. And, it's hard. Yeah. I mean, I think about Bach complaining about his church choirs. It's like, I need better singers, and I'm thinking, well, maybe you shouldn't write such difficult music.
Exactly.
But it's his perfection. It's his perfectionism. This music could only be this way.
Right.
And there's something magical and awesome about that. And so we tackle it. It's hard, but it is an endeavor of love, because once you get into it, and once you, I hate to say the word master, because I don't know if we actually ever master it or conquer it, but once you get it in your fingers, or you get it in your voice, there's nothing like it.
Nothing like it. Yeah. It's a life-changing experience for a performer and audience alike. And I know a lot of people that when they see something like B minor Mass or any of these monumental full concert works, and I'm not just trying to sell tickets, but they go multiple times, because there's always something you miss. Yeah. There's always something you want to rehear. And there's always something that you want to hear again for your own experience, because you may have had a bad morning before that matinee.
Yeah.
The kids might be fussy. The dog might have had a bad walk. You're reading something in the news that's disturbing. And that will color an audience member's experience of the piece. I personally believe that a musical experience such as the B minor Mass, but any true Concord concert, any great musical performance, is a cleansing experience for the ear, for the head, for the heart. And I know that sounds goofy and sappy, but having been to countless numbers of performances myself, as you have, it's such a rewarding experience for that alone, and to be sharing it with other people you don't know, and you do know within the audience itself. All of those things are great. You know, it's funny. You talk about how difficult it is. Why did he write such difficult music? You know, I think it's always important to know that he had 20 children. So making money was hugely important to him. I also am not aware of, and I wasn't until I started studying in college about his life, that Telemann and other contemporary composers were far more exalted than Bach. Bach had a contract, I believe in Leipzig, that restricted him from ever leaving the town limits without permission from the mayor of the city. That for somehow he was going to go off the reservation and do something weird. I mean, something strange was going to happen. In other words, he had restrictions on him that nobody else did, and he wasn't the star.
Right. Well, he was the third choice for the job in Leipzig, which still just baffles me.
It blows the mind, especially if you go to Leipzig now and it's Bach, 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 and Mendelssohn, Mendelssohn, right?
Yeah.
Even Wagner raves about Bach, and Wagner only ever raved about Wagner. So this says something about not just the B minor Mass, but the entire output, whether it's keyboard works or the orchestral suites, which I don't know if True Concord's done, but we should get those done, right? That kind of thing, or the violin concertos, or the glorious oboe and violin concerto. I mean, there's so many works, but the vocal work, because he was writing for church, because that was his job.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's interesting to think of these pieces being written on spec for work, you know?
Yes, which when you think about it, he was cranking out a cantata every week, for
over
years.
Breakfast.
Yeah, I mean, and raising the 20 kids.
And the 20 kids. And let's not forget the wives, because there were 2 wives.
2, yes. Yeah. So he had his hands full. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. This piece, wasn't performed in the context of church. It was too big. It wasn't necessarily a liturgical work, because the liturgical parameters, he talked about the parameters in which he was working, wouldn't have had room for this. This is much bigger than this. And you talked about people coming to concerts who've had a rough day or something's gone awry. We've had a rough 2 years. We talk about postponing this work, but people have been through hell and back. And this piece, to me, speaks to life. It has a way, music we know has a way of bringing people together around our commonalities, that which we share, despite all our differences. We've all gone through this COVID tragedy and been impacted in one way or another. And this piece, it has lament. It has suffering. It has death. It has faith. It has cries for peace. It has everything that we have gone through.
Yes.
As people, as human beings over the last 2 years. And so to me, this is not a museum piece. It's not a liturgical piece. It's a piece about life. And what we've gone through. To me, the culmination of it, the Dona Nobis Pacem, grant us peace, couldn't be more timely right now in this conflict in which we're observing in Ukraine, which is just tugging at all of our hearts. And at the end of this piece, Dona Nobis Pacem, grant us peace. There is a sense of a universal sense to it, a very timely, current sense to it that I think we're all feeling. But as I said, just this monumental work touches on so many emotions and feelings and experiences and memories that though it was written, years and years ago, it speaks to each of us today.
Absolutely does. And I think, and I know it's no accident that you programmed the Von Williams Dona Nobis Pacem for the past fall, which also was coming out of, especially with the Whitman poetry, of war.
Yeah.
And you paired it with the Haydn Mass in Time of War. It doesn't mean that audiences need to sort of connect those dots, but they are interesting dots, especially around the title of the Von Williams and what you're speaking of, and this resolution that Bach tries to give us, even though one isn't convinced he thinks it's a real resolution, because he is writing lower R religion, not big R religion, and he is talking spirituality, and he's talking very human.
Absolutely.
Human. I think there are people, and myself included, who I wouldn't say recoil, but the word mass can be off-putting. I think the way you described it as being this universal work, which the big sacred pieces of after Bach also do, right? The Verdi Requiem, definitely the Britain War Requiem, no question about it. It's really about finding something within us. And of course, it's a very personal piece for Bach, as all those pieces are. They dig deep, as you do as a conductor and the artists do to perform, but they dig deep to find that within them to express. And sometimes it's simply too hard to express. And that's why you get the Brahms Requiem and the Fauré Requiem, masterpieces. But literally written on spec by two composers who are fantastically gifted, but weren't coming from Bach's place necessarily. And that's okay. It doesn't mean those are lesser works or more important works, but I guess what I'm trying to get out of the titles are misleading sometimes, and probably just a better way to have an umbrella over, especially in Bach's case, where there's all this stuff that he's put together over the years to compile for what he thought was going to be the opening of a big cathedral that didn't get finished before he died, so that never happened. And that didn't get played in the United States for a long time. And probably a lot of artists thought, this is too hard. I'm not going to touch this puppy. No one's ever done it. Even Mendelssohn, who without Mendelssohn, we wouldn't have Bach. We wouldn't have the St. Matthew Passion. It was that kind of set that trajectory in place. And I think it's important to know that not because of their Leipzig connection, which is key, but because Mendelssohn knew he was never going to be Bach and had the intellect and spirituality within him and confidence to be able to say, you got to hear this. Leipzig needs to hear this. The world needs to hear it. It's important to have this done. Which is why even today, I think we should be looking at composers who we think of as great composers who conduct other people's works. John Adams is a great example, who's constantly conducting Esa-Pekka Salonen and vice versa, right? Esa-Pekka conducts John's work. That's not by mistake. That's not a tit for tat. That's not, thank you, you did my piece, and so now I'm going to do this. That happens in the business. Don't get me wrong. But that's not the case here. And I think it's analogous to what Mendelssohn did, because it was very self-effacing. He didn't have to do that. and Mendelssohn's own personal history, Jewish, Christian, all of that probably played into it as well, and we're never really going to know. But it makes this work even more fascinating on so many other levels. And what you're doing by bringing those 12 solo parts out of the body of the vocal ensemble. So I know people in the audience have asked me, so how do you choose? I mean, is it like, okay, Billy got to do this last year, so now it's Tommy's chance, or or is it probably begins with voice type and who can actually do it, right? Yeah, and then who has the courage to take it on? Because typically, big name soloists we brought in, not just for recording, but just to do the piece. So, could you speak to that a little bit? Because I think it speaks to the strength of what True Concord is.
Absolutely, and it's all of the above. As I mentioned, we have an embarrassment of riches of incredible talent.
It's a vocal ensemble of soloists.
Yeah, and so I have these ideas, these sound ideas in my head about the kind of timbre, the kind of vocal quality characteristics that I think the individual pieces, the solos or the duets, call for, and so I have the luxury of having choices.
Great, yeah.
But spreading around the opportunities that is important.
Does anybody ever say, thank you, I'm just not ready to do that, or I'm not up to it at this time, or, I mean, is that conversation part of it, or do they think, music director's asking me, I got to do this? A little bit of both?
You know, I can't think of an instance in which someone said, you know what, I don't think I can do that. I'd like to think that I've carefully considered who the right voice is.
So ability is not the issue, but it might be right before I come to Tucson to do it, I've got all these other things going on, so I don't have the time to prepare. But you give them a year notice typically, right? I mean,
that's kind of generous.
6 months. Yeah. Sometime in there.
You know, the beauty with these folks, when you're dealing with the kind of caliber of artists that we have, I can tell them, hey, can you do this next week? And I'm not saying that's what I've done here, but we've had people step in. I'm thinking of Carmina Burana, for example, in our
no easy soloist piece, right? Any stretch.
So our soprano soloist threw out her back the week of the performance.
Wow. And that's the solo everybody's waiting for.
Yeah, and she couldn't get out of bed.
Wow.
You know, so I called up Chelsea. I said, hey, do you think you can do the soprano solo? She said, absolutely.
Great.
She hadn't done it before. But this is testament to the level of artists that we have here. And this is partly what makes...
As did the violinists with the Four Seasons.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, one of the violinists got sick. And we went to the others. And, you know...
Week's notice, hey. Okay.
Yeah. And, daunting, challenging, time-consuming, but monumental. I mean, this is an opportunity to step up for the team on some great music in both of these cases. Yeah. Now, this doesn't happen all the time, and you're always reminding we need a backup plan. And I like to think we've got a whole bunch of backup plans in the ensemble because they're that good. And that's partly what makes True Concord unique, I think, is that there's choirs everywhere. Every church, every school's got a choir. There's a lot of community choirs, and that's great. Should be lots of opportunities for people to sing. We've got an ensemble, as you said, of soloists. Yeah. They can step up on a moment's notice and fill in. I'm thinking of, we did the St. John Passion a few seasons ago. And opening night, our evangelist, Owen, God bless him. We walked into the performance. I said, how you doing? He said, I'm about 60%. And I said, yikes. But I'm going to do it. So we get out there, and he put everything out there and just laid it all out. We get to the very end of the piece, and there's one more recitative, and he says to me, he whispers, he says, I think I can do it. And I said, can you speak it? I can't. So we skipped over it. We finished the performance. Eric Gustafson in the choir says, hey, let's get together tomorrow. Let's coach this. And like that, he was our evangelist Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. Again, he had done it before, but it's testament to the fact that that choir is full of people who can step up on a moment's notice and do something like the evangelist role in St. John Passion.
So to underscore, if I could, just for maybe people who haven't heard the Passions, the evangelist is everything, right? Talky, lots of words, taking the story along, singing, sprech singing a little bit, all of that. And the essence of the drama and moving the drama along is their responsibility.
Absolutely.
So this is not something people just go, oh, hey, I can, let's coach it and I'll do it tomorrow. That's pretty unusual. No. So it does speak to exactly what you're talking about.
It was big time.
I know audience members everywhere I've worked, but especially at True Concord, they're always wanting this kind of backstage stuff because it is interesting to understand what happens and that it's not just people show up and they start rehearsing on Monday and they start performing on Friday. And there is that, there's a regularity to it and a semblance of calm, but things do happen. I also should say that since we are closing the season, we do have a marvelous recital that people can enjoy at Holtan Hall. Do you want to talk about two soloists from the ensemble?
Well, again, it's wonderful to feature our individual artists on the main stage concerts. Yeah. Here's an opportunity for, as we call it, the close-up series in a wonderfully intimate hall of Holsclaw with a
beautiful,
great acoustic. You get up close and personal with these singers on a program that's very personal to them,
right? And
timely, talking about the immigrant experience through an array of music that
and text,
and text that just tug at the heart through just really thoughtful artists themselves. Gene and Kim. Some will remember Kim singing "This Little Light of Mine."
I was turning pages for the accompanist, and I got to be right there in front of her when she was doing it. It was bliss.
Yeah,
and everybody was melting. Everybody on stage was melting.
It was one of those pin drop moments.
Definitely.
Again, we'll get to hear Gene. He's going to sing the Benedictus from the Bach this weekend, which is one of my favorite arias. Yeah. Again, a real tugger at the heart. So Gene's been a soloist with us as well in the past. Just great singer, great artist, and the two of them have put this program together. They've been sort of taking it on the road around the country, just because of the timeliness of it and the uniqueness of the program. And we'll get to feature them at Holsclaw on Tuesday after Bach.
And I know everybody's itching to know what 22-23 season will look like, 19th season, with the 20th lurking around the corner, which is very exciting as well. And they'll get a peek at that soon. So
we're going to roll it out the week of the Bach. I know, right?
That's right.
Tons going on.
Right.
So a first for True Concord, we're going to be able to roll out our brochure as part of that last concerts of the season. Thanks to
everybody jumping in and having a good time with it, because the programming, which is always stellar from True Concord, it was, as we've discussed, it's one of the things that has really attracted me to want to be a part of this team, and it is a wonderful team. But next season.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So I can't spill the beans right now.
No, you cannot.
But it is.
We know one more.
Well, we do, yes. So we've got the premiere, the long-awaited premiere of Jocelyn Hagen's "Here I Am," which is way cool and way exciting. Yeah. And Susanna Phillips is going to be.
She's not changing it to "Here I Was."
Yeah, right. No. So we finally get to do that, and Susanna Phillips, it worked out for her to come, sing the Mozart Exultate Jubilate,
and she's doing the recital as well.
That's right. So that part we can share.
Yes.
And what I can say is it's going to be a great season, much like a typical True Concord season. We've got the classics, we've got new works. I'd like to think there's something for everybody, and I can't wait to share more about it a little later.
Absolutely. Thank you for the time today.
No, thank you, Welz, and thank you to all of you for your support this season. It's been an amazing season in so many ways. We know that many of you have gone through difficult times. We all have. We hope that this music has and continues to speak to you in ways that elevate your spirit and create a sense of hope and joy and love and peace. at a time when we really need a lot of that. And so we look forward to seeing you. Hope to see you for this incredible work of Bach's, the B minor Mass that we have the great privilege of presenting to you once again. So we look forward to seeing you soon.